Can you hear me? Let's see, is that working? Hello? Okay, I think that's live. Okay. Greetings and welcome to the first episode of, or first live stream of the drawing room. So I've had this, I'm still messing around with the tech stuff, sorry. I've had this site for a little while, and I've been uploading various gameplay and all that kind of stuff. And I started doing some drawing things and uploading those, and then I just sort of dropped off. And I've been meaning to come back and do. I wanted to do some live streaming to YouTube. I'd done it to Twitch before, and it was fine, but I wanted to do it to YouTube, so I thought I'd start fresh and have like a proper episode count and all that sort of stuff. So whether it goes on longer than 1 week is to be seen, but I'm going to sit here doing some drawing anyway. So I figured I might as well, do a live stream and maybe get some things going in the chat. I mean, I don't know. I can see straight away my mate Ben from college popped in earlier to say hello, and hopefully he'll come back. We haven't got that many viewers, but what are you going to do? I mean, it's episode one. It's like the tip of the spear. So what I wanted to do today was basically I'm going to sit and do some drawing shortly, but before I do that, I just wanted to go through firstly some of the comics that I bought this week that I haven't quite got to read yet, but I thought I'd go through my pull list, only because this is essentially what this channel is going to be about. I think what this particular part of the channel is anyway, is that uh, in the sort of more recent years, I've got really into drawing comics again, which is something that I used to do a lot of. And then, career and life, etc., just kind of takes over. So I thought maybe I would try and get back into doing a bit more of that, which I've been doing for the last sort of 3 or 4 years, to varying degrees of success and failure. And the one thing that's been consistent throughout the whole time I've been alive is that I've always read comics, and I still do pick up my comics every week and have a loft full of them, and my shelves are full of them. And every week there's something new and fresh and really exciting stories. Just really, really good stuff. So it's something that I've wanted to sort of get into professionally for a while. I think my my background is that I've been a graphic designer for the last 25 years, but before I did that, I used to draw a lot of comics for a long time, all kind of for myself and self-published stuff and things that I was doing at school and things like that. So nothing sort of serious by any means. And then I reached a point where I thought maybe I should probably get a real job. So I went off and I've been a designer in London for 25 years, and I still am doing that job and I love that job. But there was a little bit of me that kind of wanted to get back to doing comics again. And I think with the lockdown that came along, there was an opportunity there for, sort of stuck in your house for long periods of time, which gave me the opportunity to then sort of start thinking, well, maybe this is a good time to get back into it. So I did. And yeah, I can go through some stuff that I've been doing shortly, but I thought I'd go through my pull list first. So, so this week, obviously, I still get my weekly 2000 ADs, which you know I do really like. I've been reading 2000 AD since, well, I was born in the year it came out in 77. I'll tell you how old I am. But it's consistently a good magazine. It's one of the last British published magazines, comic books that survived as long as it has. Prog 2449. So that'll tell you how long it's been going for, if you're good at maths. And yeah, I mean, it's consistently good every week. They always have something in it that's really interesting. I think it's changed a lot from the 80s. I feel like it used to be maybe a little bit more politically incorrect. Is that the right term for this now? I guess so. Which is, what I grew up with it being, kind of like, I don't know, Nazi symbols on dinosaurs and God knows what else, and some quite grotesque stories, which I always loved. And now they do still have a little bit of that in here, like this week. They've still got a little bit. It's not quite for kids like like it was sort of back in the 80s, but now it's interesting in as much as the consistency of the storytelling's always been really, really good. The writing's always really, really good, and the art is it varies from story to story. They get different artists involved, which I really like. So there's still the variety, and it's in full color now. It used to be a lot of it in black and white monotone, but that's digital for you. So 2000 AD is always good. I'm reading Absolute Superman as well, which I've up to issue 9 on. That Absolute series is very good. Something keeps boring me. I think it's my other headphones. Hang on. This Absolute series is very good. The Batman series, certainly for the first 5 issues, was really good. The other ones have kind of started to tail off a little bit for me, but I like the first 5. That was good story arc. And then they had Absolute Wonder Woman, which I've never really been a Wonder Woman fan, in as much as I never really could quite get into the stories, but I have really enjoyed the sort of reboot of that of this Absolute series. So I think all in all they're pretty good. Superman one's probably the weakest, I think, in comparison to the others, but again, it's still better than most comic books that are on the shelves at the moment. So this one I picked up just because it was an issue 1 this week, and it was a Red Hood DC issue. I then saw on Twitter that the writer, Gretchen, I'm going to say this wrong, Gretchen Felker Martin, Felker, I guess so. I read somewhere that this series has now been cancelled, so I don't quite know what she said. Something horrendous on social media, and now she's not doing it anymore. Apparently, maybe that'll change, but that's something that I read this morning. So yeah, who knows? That's probably worth £1 million now. And then I'm also reading these, which is the Hello Darkness series, which has been really, really good. It's up to issue 14. I never really stick these out. I get to about sort of 4 or 5 issues, and then I've had enough. It's a an anthology of short stories, which is something that I probably should love. But usually I just kind of trail off. But with this, I've stuck with every single issue, and they are consistently getting better and better. I really like the art in these, and it's the same as the 2000 AD, which is the art changes depending on which story it is. In fact, we can have a look at this. They get different artists and different writers to work on short stories, which is something that I'm actually doing at the moment as well, but I can talk about that later. Let me just make sure I'm getting that in shot and move my mouse out of the way. Yeah, so as you can see, like, it feels like one of those magazines where the stories don't really have a place anywhere else, so they kind of all fit nicely together, so you've got some really diverse storytelling and diverse art, and then you'll get like a single page like this where it's just like a lot of like sort of little short sort of one hits rather than pages and pages of story, which I also like those little inserts. There aren't many magazines doing that at the moment, and I really do like that. Like I said, I'm working on an anthology with a whole group of other writers and artists at the moment, and yeah, it's been a really, really good experience, and working with them has made me realise that like there's such a wide range of different creative styles, in terms of writing and in terms of art, that when you pull them all together in something like this, I think it makes it something a little bit special, really. So that's issue 14. So that's a really looking good. And then the other one that I haven't opened yet, and I probably won't here, is there's a Red Band Punisher issue. And anyone who doesn't know what these are, basically, it's like so that little kids don't pick them up, and some of the pages are a little bit kind of gory or maybe over the top, or maybe they deal with more adult content than they would traditionally, which hasn't always been Marvel's style. But with these particular issues, they've started releasing them, and I think they're quite good. But I also think that there's a marketing angle here, because there was a Wolverine series that came out, and they had a Wolverine comic, and then they had the Red Band version of it. And I actually bought both of them, which is probably what Marvel intended, but I bought it with the sole purpose of actually comparing what they changed. And basically, maybe we'll go through that another time, but basically one issue was very dumbed down compared to the other being really over the top and gratuitous. The story started and ended in the same place, but the journey along the way was different in both of the stories. And on one aspect, I quite liked it because it was something new and fresh, but by about the fifth issue, I started thinking, hang on a minute, the story isn't that great, and all I'm really doing is buying it to compare the pages. So for an exercise in what Marvel think you can get away with versus what they definitely know you can't, it was quite interesting. But I don't know, I picked this one up because I like the Punisher, but we'll see. So that's it. That's basically my pull list for this week. And there's a few others as well. Two that I'm reading at the moment, which weren't from this week, but they are very, very good. I couldn't find, actually, there's three. There's one issue of this thing called, I'm going to forget it now, something The Fallout. I'm going to have to look that up in a sec. News from the Fallout, I think that's probably it. That's been quite popular. Great art style. I haven't got it to hand, but I'll have to dig that out next time. This is the other one, which is Don't Run with Scissors. And basically, I just really liked how brutally innocent some of this line work is, like the art in this. I mean, there's a lot of kind of like simple mark making and then gratuitous sort of over the top violence, a guy with some scissors in his head. But actually, it's the style that I'm after rather than the subject matter. I like all this stuff, like all this background noise, how they're kind of, letting the background be drawn by the color rather than just relying on the inks all the time, which I really liked. I like all this kind of stuff. It's nice. It's got a woodcut feel to it. And the line weights never get skinnier than about kind of 2 or 3 points, so that's quite interesting as well. So I did like that one. So that's worth looking at. And then the other thing I'm reading is, sorry, this is going on a bit long, but I'm into it now. Is The Moon is Following Us, which has been really, really good, which is the Daniel Warren Johnson series, and issue 9 of that. Again, this is kind of slightly on a different level in terms of, I mean, I don't know how he's managing to turn this around so quickly. It's unbelievable, actually. He's on issue 9, and yeah, I mean, it is bonkers how much he's obviously getting some support here. He's got Riley Rosmo as creator artist as well, so I'm sure that he's probably doing backgrounds and filling and all that kind of stuff. But the layouts and the structure feels very much Warren Johnson, the same as all his other work. And like if you've read Do a Powerbomb, that's also really worth looking at. And obviously the Eisner Award-winning Transformers series that he's just done, which is also very good. So that's basically it. That's all my comics for this week. So what I thought I'd do now is I'm actually going to do some drawing at some point. But before I do that, I was just going to run through some of the things that I'm working on, or have been working on over the last years. I'm saying that like my sort of limited amount of comic experience in terms of what I've produced myself, I kind of look at what I've done over the last sort of 2 or 3 years in between working full time as a designer, and then I kind of like, some of it I like, some of it I don't, some of it's more successful than others, and obviously luckily from what I've sort of started publishing kind of like maybe 3 or 4 years ago compared to now, I feel like things have really moved on for me sort of creatively, and I have really enjoyed doing this. But you can definitely see that like from the beginnings of some of these books to some of the more recent stuff, I feel much more comfortable where I am now, even though these are a lot of fun to do. So one of the series that I work on with my colleague Tim Southwell is the Pugs in Space series. So we did a whole load of these. So there's loads of issue 1, the reprints actually, but then we did a whole load of different stories about these pugs traveling through space, trying to find the missing sausages. So that's always worth a look. Another book that I did, I sort of did last year actually, but it doesn't come out until November. Let's put this down there. It's the Skipper Whiskers book, which I will open, just because I think when I started doing the pugs, I started writing a lot more ideas down than I was previously. I was just doing a lot of illustration, and then I just like the idea of maybe sort of just creating something purely by myself. Having worked with Tim, which was a brilliant experience, on a couple of good jobs. The pugs being one of them, another one being a Danger Mouse book. With this one, I just wanted to write and draw everything myself, just to kind of just to do it and be a bit more experimental for myself, really. Just kind of trying to combine more sort of design skills and my illustration together to try and sort of make that work a little bit. And this was a good one. I don't know if you can really see much of that. I'm trying to. I've got to get. I'm sure over the years I'll get these lights right. But anyway, yeah, I basically just wrote the story, created all the characters. It was a bit of fun, really, to do and just sort of practice some of my drawing skills, but also, something to kind of focus on for the kids as well, which is always good, because I did like some poster stuff with them in it, and got a little boy and girl that like all this sort of stuff. So yeah, this one comes out in November. I'm sure I'll plug the website at some point, but it is going to be. This one's going to be. Hang on a minute, I'm making a mess now. This one's going to be in Cosmic Comics. I think it's going to Gosh. Maybe Forbidden Planet, but I'm waiting to hear back from them. So yeah, that's kind of where that is. See what happens with that. That's just issue 1. It took me like 2 years to write and draw that from start to finish. So who knows how long it's going to take me to do it. Doing the rest. So this is one of the sort of more wider known publications that I've worked on. Which was a Danger Mouse. It was his 40th anniversary in 2021, and because of the Pugs work that I'd done with Tim, I then got the opportunity to basically pitch to do this, and it was a very quick turnaround. I think I did the whole thing from start to finish in about 2.5 months. So basically, oh hello Foxhound, he's just joined the chat. This is making me laugh because I'm normally just watching these shows. I've never really doing them. But anyway, so yeah, basically, this was a good opportunity because not only did I get to design the whole thing, um, I mean, Tim Southwell essentially wrote like 99% of it, but I got to like really push things a little bit in terms of some of the other content. So there's a small amount of writing in here that I did myself, which I was quite proud of, having never really had any writing stuff properly published before. You know, and obviously I've done like copywriting for years, but I haven't ever, you know, really written something that was uh, sort of along this more creative line. And the other thing, that the only real sort of contribution that I made to this in terms of the content, I mean, obviously I designed it and drew the whole thing, but with this one, I did actually get to write the last story, and I think at the moment it's official. Like everything in here was officially canon. So all of this stuff, you know, certainly for the um, you know, the end of this particular um, generation of Danger Mouse lovers. This was the last Danger Mouse story, and then he's been revamped since then into something new. But for this particular one, yeah, we got him to meet the Queen and all this stuff, so that was quite fun. And we did an interview with David Jason, and yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that. It was a lot of hard work. I mean, I was literally like up all night drawing technical specs for the Danger Mouse car, which, you know, sounds like a dream job when you're about 11. But when you're a grown person trying to get some sleep, it can be a little bit grueling to say the least. Anyway, so that's basically that. And that's where I then sort of come into where I am now, which is those things I've been doing over the last couple of years. Last year, I entered a competition for I entered a competition for a 2000 AD, which was in Harrogate. They do a thing every year called Thought Bubble, and I entered it the year before actually, but I half phoned it in. I wanted to go. I wasn't sure if I was going to enter, and then at the last minute, I did something. I went along and showed my, you know, you get given a brief. I went along and showed the people there, and they liked what I did, and they basically just said, "I'll come back next year." So I thought, "Oh, okay, fine." So I kind of got a better layout of what that meant. So I did go back the next year and spent a little bit more time on it, and actually got through to the final five. So they had however many hundred of people of by Foxhound. I had however many hundred people or so, or thousands, or whatever, however many people got it, entered it. I'm not entirely sure. 40? I don't know. Who knows? Um, but I did manage to actually get through to the final of that, which was really exciting. And I got to meet a whole load of people that work in the industry, and I got some advice from people about what they're doing, where they're from, and you know, and obviously I'm older, so I'm not like coming at this from like an 18, 19-year old. So on one hand, that's a downside because they're looking for fresh faced new people and youngsters to kind of, you know, get their claws into and corrupt. But on the flip side, I have all these other skills that I can apply that I think actually I don't know if I'd have been able to do this when I was like 20. So I feel more comfortable doing it now. And I mean, maybe I've left it too late, but I actually feel more confident in my work and what I'm doing for illustration at the moment than I ever have been. So I think that's a positive thing. So the one thing I was going to do was I'm just going to quickly show that because this also has. I don't know if I can get this in. Yeah, let's just see. This has. It's bound to reflect really badly, but this is what I'm working on at the moment, which I will sort of just turn like this. So after I sort of met up with everybody at the 2008 2000 AD event. There were a whole load of people that didn't win. I didn't win. You know, there was a sort of scruffy 20-year-old that won instead, so that's fine. He's gone about his career, and that's okay. And he was also very good, so well deserved. But I then made contact with a lot of different people that were there, other writers and artists, and we were talking about, you know, what it's like when you enter one of these things but you don't win it, and you know, it was all that kind of stuff. And I, you know, to me, I'm just kind of like, oh well, I'm sure it'll be fine, and you know, I'll just enter it. I just wanted to see how far I get. I got pretty far, and it was a really really good experience. But then the problem with something like that is you then the genie's out the bottle. You know, the door's open, if you like. So like you can't put the cap back on the bottle. You've got to keep going. So after that, I started thinking, well, I'd had this idea for an anthology of stories, and what I wanted to do was maybe just work with 5 or 6 different writers, and then I was going to illustrate all of the different stories. Now, that sounds simple, but it's a lot of work, right? So, and you've got to remember, like, balancing life and my other job and all that kind of stuff is incredibly tricky when you're trying to do something like this. So, the interesting thing about it is that, like, I got to meet all these different people, and then I thought, well, I wanted to go back to this idea I'd had about having an anthology. And then I sort of proposed the idea that maybe we could kind of pair off. So you'd have like an illustrator and a writer doing one story, me working with someone else on another. Then maybe I'd just do one by myself, and then we just combine it together and see how many stories we got, and then put it together as a book. And that happened really quick. Like after November, we all started discussing like ideas about what we were thinking we might like to do, and then suddenly, like, I'd mapped out like an 80-page book already, and I just thought, great, this is just kicking off, and everybody's really up for it. Everybody was really nice. I mean, obviously, there's no money in it. You can't. It doesn't make any money, but not yet. Anyway, who knows? But like, you when the time that you put in at the start, especially with, it's like a startup business. You kind of, you work hard for it at the start, and then if something comes along down the line, it gets picked up by a publisher, or you print enough of them and sell enough of them that you make some of your money back and break even. That's kind of the best that you can hope for. But the true function of this is basically to work as a portfolio that you can hand out to people. Um, so the idea being is, like, it's like the most glamorous business card you'll ever have. It's like a collection of artists and writers that like working together. Hopefully some art and things in there connect with enough people that it seems interesting, and we can have a bit of fun with it along the way. It was never meant to be like this grueling task. So whatever I was doing, or whatever work I was doing during the day or at weekends or whatever was going on, this was always a really fun part of uh, you know um, getting back into it. It just meant, like, I could just let loose and paint stuff, and just basically I just sort of worked on all these. I'm going to try and get this whole thing in there, but I'm trying to hold that up so it doesn't get too reflective. Yeah, so it was this kind of stuff really. So I've been working on a lot of sort of page layouts for things, for one of the stories. So this is just the black and white artwork for one of the things that I'm working on at the moment, that's going into the book. Interesting thing about that is that, like, as things went on, were progressing, I started thinking, well, we're probably going to be ready to print this and take it back to the thought bubble for 2025. And what better story to have than to go back and say, look, none of us won any competitions. None of us came first. So we've all benefited from it in some way, but it wasn't the kind of hand of God on the shoulder saying, the door is open, thy son, pass through and become this world famous artist. That just isn't going to happen. So you've got to make these things happen yourself. And I feel that, like, doing this project has really given me a lot of confidence to just keep doing it myself, rather than actually relying on publishers. There's a famous Steve Martin quote where he said, like, someone once asked him, how did he get famous, or what's his tip for getting famous, and his answer to that was like, just be so good that people can't ignore you. And I think that sums up my thinking behind this as well, which is, like, not be so good that people can't ignore you, but be competent in what you're doing and show the skills that you need, that can put you in a position where that might be something that opens opportunities up with other publishers. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at the moment. I think this book, when it's kind of complete, I won't show any of the other artists' work, because that's all kind of incomplete at the moment, and they're sort of finishing off like I am. But it will end up being this thing that we're then going to hand out on the day. So that was the idea, that we would go to Harrogate and we would hand these things out. But what ended up happening was, I contacted the event to basically say this was something we were doing, and then the next thing I know, they're setting up a panel for us to do a talk about it. So yeah. Hey Ben, I keep seeing your messages come up. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's actually, it's funny because, like, I like a lot of Japanese style books. I'm reading this at the moment as well. I'm reading this. I don't know if you've seen this one before, but this one's something that came out quite recently. It's called uh, Yan Wan, which is very good. Again, lots of really cool black and white art in it, which I just really, I really connect with all of that stuff. But yeah, so anyway, so we've ended up becoming sort of having a bit of a rapport with the event, and now we're going to go on to do this panel. And then I started like contacting comic shops because I thought, wouldn't it would be quite cool if this was on a shelf somewhere while we were doing that, and we'll try and do like a mini launch, even if it's just like the local comic shop that sticks a couple on there, whatever. But it's now I contacted Gosh that are in the middle of London. They're up for it. So they're going to have a load of them when they're printed, which they're going to put on the shelves for us. The one that happened this morning was that um, I've been I contacted Waterstones a long time ago to see if they were interested in publishing any of the Pugs work, and they weren't really interested in periodicals. So I was waiting until I had something that was more kind of substantial. So there's like kind of 50, 60 page or whatever. I think this is going to end up being about 76 to 80, I think. And yeah, so it looks like we might be going into Waterstone. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So I'm waiting to hear back about quantities and launch dates and all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of coming together. So there's that happening, and I'm also working on some other things as well. So I'll just flick through this because I won't bore you too much with it all. But this is something slightly different, which is like the style of these guys. I tend to what I'll do is I'll work really big with these and then scale them down to the size I need. So you end up with a lot of intricate artwork, and some of it gets lost. But the repro of today compared to the repro of the '80s is just like it's so good today that by the time you reduce this down, and the print quality of some of these printers are just, you don't lose anything. So there's detail there. But then with this one that I'm working on, I've actually done this in the reverse, which is I ended up doing a lot of the pages as like really small sketches and then just blowing them up. So I get these really cool mad lines of like all this stuff going on, and like, you can sort of draw uh, life drawing style, but you have to do it in a very sort of simple, quick way to get the feeling of that shoulder or that arm or whatever. And then when you blow it up, it just has this quality about it that I just really, really like. So, yeah, so I've been working on all of that, which has been quite fun. Some of this was 2000 AD stuff. So this was my submission last year for the competition, which it went pretty well, actually. They liked it all. I don't think they knew what to make of me. I think they just thought, they had all these like sort of 20 something kids turning up with the black and white sort of pen and ink drawings and whatever, and a lot of it was digital, which is fine. There's a place for that, and I do a certain amount of that, but I don't start there. And then I sort of came along with my watercolors and just sort of I think I was the rank outsider, but anyway, for whatever reason, they liked it, so that's good enough for me. And yeah, so there's a whole load of stuff in here which I've just been sort of working through over the last year, which I've been sort of to varying degrees of success, and some of them are sort of a bit more experimental and a bit more traditional. But yeah, so anyway, that's kind of that. I should probably actually draw something in a minute. Hey Ben, I keep seeing your messages. I keep meaning to actually say hello to you, by the way, because we haven't actually spoken for about. I was thinking the other day when we started college together, and I think it might be 30 years next year, mate, which is completely bonkers. And here I am talking to myself. But yeah, so yeah, I don't reckon I've seen you for, I've got to be 25. I appreciate all the comments, mate. That's really kind of you. I don't go out much these days. So what I was thinking about doing next is I'm going to do. I've got some drawing and stuff to do this weekend, but because I've been sort of sat at my desk just twiddling my keys rather than doing any drawing, I'm just going to do a drawing exercise now. So I'll set that up. Now, traditionally, if you were doing, if you were drawing, and I'm coming at this from a point of view of what I've learned over the last few years, because this is all new to me. Even though I've loved comics for years and years, a lot of the techniques and the side of one side of the things are um, are completely alien to me. So I'm learning about this and constantly changing my approach to how I do it. So when I first started, I started using a lot of Bristol board. And so Bristol's basically just like a high quality paper, which is really good for like pencil drawings. It's nice and smooth. And then you've got really good for inking. So if you're penciling on this stuff and then you're rubbing it out and you're inking or whatever, it holds the ink really well. And it's kind of like an industry standard. There's like a smooth and there's a grain. And this one is the smooth, yeah, the smooth surface one. I do like this, but the problem I've got is that I've been doing a lot of washing. So, and not like my socks, but I guess. Um, so I've been doing a lot of water sort of colours and washes, and then what I'm finding is that the amount of water I'm using is actually buckling that paper. And the problem with this as well is that it's really expensive. So like, I think 20 sheets is like 40 quid or something like that, which is way too expensive in my opinion. So what I found was this Cassart watercolour paper, which is also smooth. It is £30, but it's 50 sheets. And the thing about this is that the weight is much thicker. The finish feels much similar, and it's basically the paper that I've been working on for the last year really, and it's been really really good. I mean, not everything's about saving money, but actually, I think when it comes to these things, especially the amount of drawing and mistakes that you can make and all that kind of stuff, I feel like you don't want, or I can make certainly, you don't want to. You just don't really want to be worried about the fact that you're throwing away another £4 piece of paper. I just can't quite justify that. So I guess you can recycle, but so yeah, so when I'm doing this, I'm just going to do something off the top of my head for a minute, just to kind of do this exercise, just because it's good to do that, just to sort of warm up, if you like. So just bear with me 1 second while I just make sure that's all still running okay. Yeah, that's all fine. That's all fine. Yep. Okay, so materials wise, what I normally do is I'll draw pencil. I use a 2H. This is my grubby old. I would always normally use like a pencil, traditional wooden pencil with graphite in it. It'd be like an HB, but I actually found that the 2Hs are better, and also these mechanical pencils are very very good. It has a very skanky looking piece of tape around that, but that's just because when I'm holding it for a long time, it doesn't slip up and down in my hands. I find it quite easy just to let it sit there while I'm doing a lot of like smaller sketch work. So that is a definite must, and obviously my little sharpener, and it saves on the trees, so that's important too. And then I've got a lot of these micron pens. I'm using like 0.5s for sorry, I'm getting that in the wrong place. 0.5s for like sort of smaller detail work. I've got ink brushes. I've got these parallel pens are awesome. It's something I only discovered a couple of years ago, but they have these flat nibs, so they're almost like for calligraphy, but they just allow you to do very thin and then thick lines. So that's going out of focus now, but yeah, that's they leave some really good marks. And also, if you're working at scale and then bringing it down, you don't want all your lines to be super thin. So those are really good for getting some thick, fat lines. Obviously, Sharpies are always good. These pens are also good, which are these. I'm going to say this wrong as well. Fudenosuke um, art pens, and they have like a plastic nib, but the nib allows you to bend. So when you're doing a line, you can kind of bend it, and when you bend it, you can get some different effects out of it. So they're actually really good for inking. Obviously, whiteout is essential, not just for mistakes, but for rain and dots and splatter and noise. And then I have my very trusty water pen, which it's looking a bit grim in there, but yeah, that's something that sort of comes into play towards the end. So what I thought I'd do is just I'm just going to sit here for a minute now and pencil something out, and then I'm just going to ink it really really quickly and just kind of you know exercise my demons. So I was thinking the thing that I wanted to bring up actually was the Absolute Batman series has been really, really good, and I'm seeing a lot of people doing a lot of drawings based around that, which I do really, really like. So I think I'm going to do something similar. Yeah, let's do something. I just need the reference up here, so I'll make sure that I get all of his costume in. It's well worth it. Yeah, Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta have just been absolutely killing it on that series. Like I said, those first 5 issues are brilliant. And then it kind of starts to feel like maybe they hadn't planned to do the next five. I mean, I don't know, but the first five setups were really, really good. And the current story is good as well, but it just feels like it's like that difficult second album, you know. Right, let's see. Uh, okay, so I think we're going to do something like this. You see that? Okay. I also draw on an angle as well, which is slightly annoying because I can never quite get my camera right. So I think we're going to go big with this. Do something. Maybe we'll do something a bit. Uh, so I'm just getting the shapes right. You know, I like these. You know, I'm going to keep his head sort of quite small down there. I think. I like what I liked about the absolute Batman character is that he, you know, he's massive, which is just really refreshing. Usually he's like skinny or old, or they're trying to work out, you know, what kind of, you know, torturous thing he's got going on in his head. They never really make him like this brutal sort of force of, you know, he's always the weaker going up against the muscly guy. Whereas I like the fact that the newer one is more, you know, the newer approach is more of a bruiser. So I tend to just like when I'm drawing to start with, I just sort of do the shapes, you know. So like for me, it's like triangles and circles basically, and then as long as you make sure you get that kind of that tube structure for the body, you know, everything else sort of tends to, you know, and then you know where his ears end up being, who knows? But I think we're going to do. So that would be a knee there. So that sort of shape. Now he's got these kind of, yeah. So he probably wants to be a little bit bigger. Also, I like the fact, you know, some of them they have him wearing quite kind of technical, scientific-like boots, you know. Whereas with this character, I do feel that like, well, with this reimagined character, they've actually just stopped caring about that and just given him like a massive pair of Dr. Martens. So we're going to do that one there. Let's put him through there. Look, do that. And I think we'll put that. We're going to do something like that. Yeah. Now he does have that symbol sort of goes around there somewhere. Something like that. Okay. I like the way that they've not bothered to give him the big gauntlets either. I think that's quite. Let me just make sure I am not just drawing off the page, which can often happen. Let's see. I'll just change the angle of that slightly. And that. His head will be that down. That front will be covered. Okay. think he's going to be pulling his cape in. I don't want him to be like this. Let's just see. Yeah, something like this. I want this cape to be like coming in. Let's put him in black then. Okay, so that's starting to feel a little bit like he's got some structure. There are some things wrong with it, which I'm going to correct now. Let's just see. Just square that off. That's better. And this one, it's just slightly facing the wrong way. Let's fatten that up a bit. I think maybe his boot. No, it's too far forward now. There's always one limb, isn't there? Maybe I'm going to change the angle of that again. Yeah, maybe it should be coming down here. Yeah, let's do that. That's the front of his toe. Yeah, that's better. Let's do that. And then we'll have him standing on something. Maybe like a rooftop or something. Maybe he's just coming to land. That sounds good. Okay. So you can't even though he's oversized and out, sort of there's a manga feel to that kind of structure of that new style. I do feel that you still have to keep the fundamentals in, which is, everything connects. He's got collarbones. He's got pectorals, upper diaphragm, six pack, all that. However much you're going to black this out. Let's put that one down. Go down like this. Yeah, let's do that. It's a bit more dramatic. We'll bring that right round. I'll do something like that. Okay. Alright, so that's rough and ready. But it's getting there. So let's see. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my trusty pen here. And I'm just going to start inking because I'm a crazy man. In fact, while I do that, let's do this. Is that even working? Okay, I think that's working. Actually, let's not do that. Yes. Do that now. I'm sure I'll change this. The faces are always the hardest. I always go back and change them like 50 times. This is amazing, by the way. Thanks, Ben. No, I'm chuffed you tuned in today. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. This I can't even remember what it's called. I just got it off Amazon. It was like £6 or something like that. Everything's in Japanese, and I'll have to read the packaging, but I'll put it in the links when this is finished. It's a very good pen for inking as well. I've ruined some perfectly good t-shirts already. They're splattering everywhere. So I'll keep switching out, but that's fine. Yeah. I'll get the kind of fabric sort of building together there, which I quite like. Let's do that. Okay. These feet probably need to change, but we're going to do something with that later. Quite right from the waist down. And so if in doubt, black it out. Okay. No, I haven't been to Japan yet, Ben. That was my thing. I was looking forward to going to doing that trip, but I never quite made it. Me and the other half were trying for our first for quite a long time, and got to the point where we thought it might not happen. So maybe we'll just treat ourselves and go to Japan. And then as soon as we decided that, it bloody turns up me. I'm not complaining. This is the light of my life, but I didn't get to go to Japan, so you know, there's always a bit of resentment. Maybe next year. I would like to go. I hate to say it, but a large birthday is on the horizon. So if not next year, it would be great to go the year after. I'll have to see. No, not COVID. Kids. How's this guy looking? He's livening up a bit, isn't he? Let's just keep going for a bit. I just want to practice some more of these pen marks. Something drastic in a minute, bring this to life a bit more. I do like how that's working. Yeah. It's been a minute since I've seen you, Ben. Sure. Long overdue, mate. To have a little reunion. Legs. Quite right, but I like the structure of what's going on there. So. Alright, let's get into it. You see, that one's seen its day. Let's try this one. Yeah, let's keep that video. Where are you? That's all right. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to take out some of this rubber, some of this pencil line. Some of the lines. I need to take all of it out. I quite like the noise sometimes. Just take some of it out. I've probably actually given him too big an arm there. Let's see. Let's just cut that down a bit. The old trusty white out. It doesn't usually take much longer doing all this stuff, but I just wanted to just make some marks to get that going. Alright. So now I'm going to take this, which is the parallel pen. This is like my best mate. You can do some quite cool CY on that. Do that. Then I have my little trusty water pen here. Let's see if we can get something going. Do the same here. It just needs a little bit of something going on here. Not too dark from what I'm looking up here. Starting to feel better. the trick is now is to let things dry just a little bit, but actually maybe we're going to do the opposite. We're just going to just push this a bit further. Let's get some more water on there. Let's not get a bit more into it, I think. Put plenty of water in this. Now my other best friend is this guy. This is my trusty hairdryer, which I can basically just blast now, and it's going to spread everything out. Start to see how I've ruined some of the shirts. Thanks, chap. Just these things, I just feel like you just have to like keep building and building. Oh, I'm going to take that boot out. And you know, the things that I like in a lot of the comics that I like to read are the things that, like, the art has some sort of weird accidents going on. So I like the fact that like there's splatter and there's something that I couldn't recreate again. You know, it's just a mark that's always going to be there now. You know, for good or for bad. I do have another hairdryer that I probably should use to dry off a bit. Let's just try this. I'm sure that sounds great on the mic. Anyway. Alright, let's turn this upside down for a minute. It's another reason why I don't tape anything down or can't have like a proper drawing board, because I just usually when I'm drawing I'm constantly moving this paper around. How's that focus going? Right. I don't like anything that's too overly rendered, but this pen is particularly good. Yeah, feet and shoes, for sure. I don't mind hands, actually. Feet. And I think on this guy, I'm starting to smudge it now, I think on this guy he has like a kind of like grid on his chest. I'll just try and put some of that in there. Yeah, that 180. That is a good fact. Now, I always feel like, kind of like, while other things are drying or like, moving around or whatever, I just, like to move it about there. Yeah, okay. Something's happening. Closer. Okay, let's do a little bit more of this. All these things, like yeah, that's right, Ben. Yeah, so that thicker paper, yeah, and you don't really want like super thick watercolor paper because it's just too bulky, and obviously the ridges in the paper take your pen in different directions, whereas the smooth one, even though this is buckling slightly, but nowhere near as much as the other. Yeah, it works for me anyway. I just feel like by the time I've finished and it's all dried up and whatever, it does start to kind of feel like it's not too much of a disaster. Okay. Alright, I think we're on our way now. Let's see. something like that. Thanks, mate. Well, yeah, it's sort of, you know, it's like all these things. You can just keep going with them, I think. But you know, I'll probably just do a little bit more on it. But I think maybe it's kind of getting to a point where I feel like I kind of almost set out to do achieve what I wanted to. So just a little bit more highlights in there. With the old chip experiment. Hey, thanks. Well, it's today's warm-up, I guess. Now this isn't where I'm gonna attempt not to wreck everything, so let me just move this. What I need is, I can use that. Let's get it. Yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do now is attempt to try this. Attempt to not wreck it. I've got a whole load of things going on here, but this is acrylic ink Liquitex, I think, which is like super black. Basically, I spray this on everything in my entire house. Once it's on you, it's on you. Actually, that's a good point. I'm going to a wedding tomorrow. Should probably be a little bit careful. Yeah, so colour, yeah. Basically what I'll do now is I'll take this, you know, when I'm happy that I've done enough to it, I'll take that and then scan it in. There was a time when I was then working colours into the watercolours of all of this, but it was just becoming way too messy, and I think that's one of the things I presented last year at that 2000 AD competition, and I just sort of pulled it right back and thought, okay, I'll just do the inking, I'll tidy it up digitally, and then colour wise I do it all digital now, so I can control the colours without actually damaging any of the line work. So, you know, and it also allows me to sort of fix some things. So I'm not against doing digital work, but I think like you have to start mark making and then, you know, take it from there, if you know what I mean. Right, please don't let me completely wreck my, I'm not going to do this. Stand up, sorry. I don't like the big drops. see how that looks. Alright, yeah, something like that. It needs a bit more work, but it's coming along for sure. Alright, now what I would normally do is now wait for that to dry and then go in with the... I've got a very trusty... it's gone. Finally found a use for my old credit card, and I basically put white out on the corner of this and then flick that over it as well. And that always looks quite good. So it gives it a bit more texture. But what I think I'll do is probably just let that dry, and then I'll go back in and just tidy it up. But yeah, I think that's probably it in terms of that drawing. Yeah, it's got a bit of movement in it. It's got a nice big blob there, I don't mind that. I've managed to cover my desk, of course. Right, so I think that might be it. Ben, I don't know if you're still there, but thanks so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks a lot. Cheers, Ben, I appreciate that. And it's been really good catching up with you. I appreciate it, mate. And yeah, thanks for tuning in and all that. And I think I'm going to try and do another one next week. Maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. I'll stick something up on the YouTube channel. But what I was thinking, while you are on, Ben, this is something that I would like to do, is that you can do collabs. So if you want to come on with me and do some drawing together, we could do that together if you wanted to. That's always quite fun. I've seen quite a few channels where, you know, you can put your art side by side and choose something to put something to, you know, together, which always looks quite fun. So if you're up for doing something like that, I'll drop you a message. Anyway, until next time, be good, stay safe, and be kind to one another. Peace out, we gone. Bye.